Now, here's the huge one for you. Here's the huge one. August 12th, total solar eclipse in Leo, fifth house. Now, this is new destiny in romance, creativity, children, joy, visibility, entrepreneurial success. If you've been an entrepreneur for a while and you're like really waiting for that breakthrough or that up level, I'll just say breakthrough. I guess that's the best word. This is the solar eclipse that could really realign you with that. Welcome back to the Power and Purpose podcast. I am Vanessa Soul, your host. Thank you so much for joining me here. And today is the start of a special series that we're going to be doing for the rest of December and maybe a little into January if we need the extra time. But I will be going through all 12 signs and doing like a yearly preview for 2026 based on your rising sign. So the requirement is you got to know your rising sign. I only do rising sign astrology because I really focus on the houses when I'm doing interpretations, when I'm reading and giving more context as to what area of life something is impacting you in. So you'll definitely want to know your rising sign. And that's based off of your full birth date, but also your time of birth. So there's a link here in the description, and you can go check that out. It's on astrocharts.com, free website. I'm not sponsoring them. It's just a quick, easy way for you to get your rising sign as long as you know the time that you were born or even an hour estimate. So make sure you look up your rising sign. And if you are an Aries sun sign, yes, you can listen to this, but honestly, I don't want to mislead you or focus on an area of life that may not be exact for you. You want to find the video that will probably be released pretty soon if it's not already released that is focused on your rising sign. All right, so and here's another part of my introduction. I'm doing this series, 2026 preview. Again, I don't know if I introduced myself, Vanessa Soul, evolutionary astrologer. I want to do this preview because it helps us understand the energies and rising signs are kind of grouped together because whatever your rising sign is, it starts in the first house and it flows around the whole entire chart throughout the houses into your and the last house being your 12th house. But also I have a 2026 a year ahead deep dive one-on-one program that you can sign up for. Now that is a very special container. It's 3 sessions and we're going through 2026, where we're going through the whole entire year in those 3 sessions. But you get a lot of supportive materials up front before we even get into our Zoom sessions. You'll have your monthly summary of some of the big highlights. And this is not just about the transits in this program. It actually includes your personal planets and how your natal chart interacts with the transits that are happening for the rising sign, in this case, Aries or Gemini rising or Taurus rising or whatever it is. So listen to this series, find your rising sign, and if you feel called, sign up for the 2026 A Year Ahead Deep Dive program. The program is only open for signups until December 31st. So because we got to get all 3 sessions done by the end of January for everyone who signs up. So that way you'll be done with your sessions and you'll have your year preview all set and ready to go. And I think I forgot to mention that it also comes with a 12-month calendar that's personalized with your personal themes and concepts that tie into some of the major transits. So that's part of the inspiration for this series. So this one is for Aries, and we're going to dive in, and I'm going to keep this, I'm trying to keep it short, sweet, powerful, but most importantly, easy to understand. So here we go, and there's timestamps. So if you need to, you could just jump around with the timestamps. But if you're at Aries Rising, this is going to be a powerful podcast episode for you to listen to. And if you're Aries Rising, 2026, I don't want to just say, I don't want to be super cheesy and be like, it's your year. but it might be just your year if you're Aries rising because of some of the things that you have happening in the 10th house and in your first house. So we'll get into all of that. All right, Aries rising. So the first thing I want to go through is a very big event, which is your 10th house of career and your public image and your reputation and your purpose and the legacy that you leave behind. And so Mars is going to be entering in your 10th house of Capricorn on January 9th, 2026. So this is like a reset for your career. And this reset, it doesn't just happen on January 9th, it just gets started on January 9th. And it will start to gradually take place over the next 2 years. And Mars is not going to be in that section of your chart for 2 years. It's a shorter transit, but it sets the table, if you will. It sets everything up, a series of events that will play out for the next 2 years once it goes into your 10th house of Capricorn. So that's a really big event right at the top of the year for you, January 9th, and then it's going to carry out. So something might end with your reputation or your public identity, and then something new might come up. You might be known for something completely different. Your career might go into a completely different direction. And like I said, for some Aries risings, this will happen a little, it might seem like it might happen a little fast. And for others, it just depends on everything else happening in your chart. It might feel like this kind of gradually transforms, during the 2 years of the impact of the transit. Not that the transit is 2 years. So lots of ambition during this time, restructuring, long-term professional transformation, all of that is happening for you. And you kind of get this, like this is activating you at the beginning of the year in January 9th. So I think it's huge. And then Venus is also in Capricorn January 6th here. There's a Kazemi with Mars and Venus, and this opens up new money opportunities, elevated success, new support, new allies. I could even see marriage, a new marriage here, because when we get married to someone, that changes our public image sometimes, like the power couple reputation or that public image type experience. Not that that's going to be for every Aries rising, but again, Venus and Mars are both going to be, in your 10th house in the beginning of January in Capricorn, starting off 2026 for you. So there's a lot of possibility. And this is the most important aspect of your career and public image during this time. So I'm excited for you. Okay, so let's carry on. Saturn and Neptune enters Aries in February. So Saturn will enter into Aries permanently. We already had a taste of this in 2025, but it enters not permanently, but for its full cycle. Saturn enters Aries February 13th, 2026 to 2028. Now, your Aries rising. So this is your first house, and I won't sugarcoat this for you. When people have Saturn in their first house as a transit, like life starts to feel a little heavy. It feels like there's a lot of responsibility. It feels like they're limited, either physically or they're limited with their visibility or their professional persona or something, in their first house. The first house is your self-awareness, your physical body, everything physical about you. It's how you look, it's how you present yourself. So you might find, you might feel a little bit more serious. You might feel more disciplined, like you or and in the beginning of this transit, it might feel resistant, right? So let me give you an example. An example is some of you Aries risings will really need to be disciplined with some type of physical health thing, right? And it might feel inconvenient, and it might feel like a challenge, or you might feel like you don't want to allocate the resources towards it, or you might have all these excuses, but Saturn is asking you to really focus on this thing. whatever the first house, physical body, self-awareness, your personality, your identity. It's the character you're playing. So, really tapping into being responsible, even if you're already a responsible person, but there's something here that with Saturn, this is a 2-year cycle. It's going to really require you to be accountable for who you are, who you're becoming. But at the end of the road, it really does, like at the end of this 2-year transit, you will reap the benefits. You'll reap the rewards. You'll become someone who did the work. And you just didn't get there by overnight success. You actually put in the work because Saturn was sitting here in your first house for 2 years. And then we have Neptune in Aries. This is January 2026 to 2039. It's a 14-year cycle. Neptune is all about it's about creativity, spirituality, inspiration, intuition, imagination, fantasy at times. Some of the lower vibrations can be escapism. And so for any Aries risings out there with Saturn and Neptune in your first house, if you are escaping with anything, this is going to be a time where you're going to be asked to navigate that success, navigate it and navigate it and navigate it over and over again until you're successful at it. And some of you might just navigate it and move on because you'll understand, like, okay, no more. I get it. I'm done. All right. So, but Neptune, it's a longer transit. And sometimes we're not seeing things clearly when Neptune is around. Sometimes there's some delusion or illusion, or we're just like caught up in this fantasy, or and then sometimes it's imagination and it's thinking big, or it's our connection to God or our spirituality or these altered states. So it's not, nothing is negative or positive in astrology. Um, but these are some of the themes that are going to be happening in your first house. And again, if you join in on my program, the 2026 A Year Ahead Deep Dive, we're going to be, we're going to be going into your personal planets and your natal chart to see how this all mixes with the general transits, because everyone's personal planet will change the flavor of how all of this is happening, right? Not every Aries rising is going to experience these transits the same, because every Aries rising has different aspects, different squares, oppositions, trines, conjunctions, inconjunctions, all types of things happening in the chart. All right, so moving on, Uranus, I want to say it correctly. Uranus, it has retrograded back into Taurus, and it'll be there until April 26th. And that is in your second house of income, spending, and self-worth, and even your diet. So for the last 8 years, you have probably experienced, disruption with your diet, or things that you're putting in your mouth, or just unexpected income, like a boost in income or a big bonus check or a big loss, or it can go in either direction, or you're spending or something, or just a big expense. It can go in either direction. Like, just think about volatility, right? Unexpected things. That's been an 8-year story. And then Uranus went into Gemini, and then it's back in Taurus for one last, roundup. So hopefully we are finalizing those lessons, whatever second house lessons you need to learn around self-worth, confidence. Really at the beginning of the year, Aries risings, I would really focus on your confidence, who you are. Just be confident in who you are, even without the money, um, and without the wealth and all of that. Even though wealth, money, and the money that we earn is part of the second house, but just focus on your self-worth and things will start to fall into place. Okay. And then that way you're finishing up any lessons that you need to learn by April 26th. And then after that, Uranus, I got to say it right, will go into your third house of Gemini, and it'll be there for 7 years. So and we already had a taste of this in 2025, but what you could expect is it can you might find, a new opportunity for learning or new technologies or learning a technology or diving into AI. Gemini I think Gemini is still connected to AI stuff along with the 11th house in Aquarius, but social media breakthroughs, new technologies, massive changes in your writing, speaking, or teaching. Like if you ever wanted to really become that professional public speaker, Uranus in your third house could be the transit that gets you started in that direction. Or maybe you started in the past, but this time it actually falls into alignment. So there's so much there. So yeah, Uranus in the third house. If you're an Aries rising and you're an online entrepreneur, you're a teacher, you're a podcaster, you're a writer, you're a coach, this transit Uranus in the third house after April 26th you'll get a lot of you'll see a lot of opportunities. New doors will open here. New doors will open that you didn't know could open, basically. All right, so then moving on, Aries rising. So let's talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is a planet of abundance, protection, blessings, and then on the Jupiter is a benefic planet, so it's one of the I know I said earlier there's no good or bad, but it's one of the it just brings luck and blessings. However, it could also bring excess, like too much of something, and then we don't know what to do. Like on Thanksgiving when some people like eat too much, that's like excess, right? So, but for the most part, Jupiter is blessings and it'll be in your fourth house of Cancer until June 30th, and it's already been there for 6 months. So you've already been experiencing, you probably had some upgrades in fourth house matters. Maybe you've upgraded your home. Maybe you started your home business, real estate business, Airbnb business. Maybe you've finally start doing therapy and your life is upgraded because of emotional integration and healing, or your family matters are resolving or things like that, or your family's growing. That's another thing that can happen when Jupiter's in the fourth house. And Jupiter gets stronger. If I'm naming off some of these things and you haven't really experienced a lot of this in the last 6 months, stay tuned, because as Jupiter continues to move through Cancer, um, even though there's a retrograde, but you will start to Jupiter gets stronger. Put it that way. Jupiter gets stronger as he continues to make his way through Cancer, your fourth house. All right, and then after that, Jupiter and Leo Jupiter will move into Leo, which is your fifth house, and this is going to be huge for you, Aries, especially because I said Saturn is going to be in your first house for 2 years, and that could be like it just makes life like a lot more serious, or some restrictions, or you might feel limited. But during this time when Jupiter's in your fifth house, this might balance it out, right? It might give you a little bit of relief. Maybe things don't feel as heavy, as serious. Maybe you just get a little bit of a breath of fresh air after this time of after June 30th when Jupiter's in Leo. The fifth house rules romance, passion, creativity, children, pregnancies. Doesn't have to be your children. Maybe your nieces or your nephews, or a project that you're doing for kids, or if you're a teacher and you have 20 kids in your class or something like that, or entrepreneurship, any fame or recognition, or taking risk too. If there's something that you've been really wanting to take a leap of faith on, and responsibly take a risk, this isn't advice to do it right after June 30th. We need to look at your chart personally. Please don't follow a general astrology reading for stuff like that. But if you're loosely planning things out for 2026, if you're going to be taking big risk, I would do it during this transit. I would do it during Jupiter in Leo as a Aries rising, and get professional personal advice, please. Okay, so moving on. So now we're going to talk about some eclipses, and I'm not going to go into these so much because it's a lot to go into eclipses. But again, this is just an overview. This is just a quick overview for Aries rising. So you kind of know what to expect. You can replay this later in the year. Hopefully, again, this inspires you to jump into my program, the 2026, a year ahead deep dive. It's 3 sessions, a summary for each month. So this is something tangible, a checklist for each month based on your personal goals. It's not my goals that is on your checklist. It's your goals that are on your checklist. And you'll have a 12-month calendar with a lot of these themes and cycles, the general ones also in conjunction with your personal ones uh, in there together in your 12-month calendar. Okay. And that's a digital calendar. And if I can swing it and make some of those physical, I will. But anyway, so the 2026 eclipses. Eclipses are major turning points. These are the events in life that are non-negotiable. You know, some of us feel like we make detours or we get off path, which really I don't think we do, but sometimes we feel like that, or sometimes we're testing things out, or sometimes we want to learn a lesson over and over and over and over and over again, right? We want to, sometimes we have fun with our mistakes and we stay in them longer than we would like, than right, than our soul would prefer. But these major turning points are kind of just like, it's the energy that just realigns you. Okay, it's the energy that realigns you. So I'm going to go through these. So for Aries rising, February, well, for everyone, February 17th, solar eclipse. And for Aries rising, it's happening in your 11th house of Aquarius. So this is going to give you some new beginnings with friendships, communities, anything technology based, anything innovative. Like if you're innovating something, if you're creating something from scratch, if you're networking, online platforms, career revenue, things like that. So, yeah, that's good stuff there. The next one is March 3rd, total lunar eclipse in Virgo. And so for Aries rising, this is happening in your 6th house. Okay. Now, this is going to bring a lot of clarity, and you might need to release things in the 6th house arena, like maybe releasing a type of work, a type of job, a daily routine that you're doing, or just restructuring your health or your employment or pets, or burnout, or getting clarity on any health issues, any illnesses or misalignments with your health. So, and health is so important. So that March 3rd total lunar eclipse in Virgo is a really good opportunity for you. Now, here's the huge one for you. Here's the huge one. August 12th, total solar eclipse in Leo 5th house. Now, this is new destiny in romance, creativity, children, joy, visibility, entrepreneurial success. If you've been an entrepreneur for a while and you're like really waiting for that breakthrough or that up, that up level, I'll just say breakthrough. I guess that's the best word. This is the solar eclipse that could really realign you with that. And like I said, it's not just entrepreneurship, it's anything creative, romantic, anything with children. If for those of us who are like waiting for our soulmate or that creative breakthrough or that new business launch, you don't have to force it around that time, but just knowing that that might be the cycle. And every other transit in 2026 is going to be preparing you for this. All right, August 28th is the lunar eclipse in Pisces, 12th house. This one might feel a little heavy. It could be a release of addictions, fears, anything repressed, any secrets, whether you've been keeping secrets from other people or yourself, or past life patterns or spiritual blocks, or just isolating, or releasing any old identities, or anything having to do with like prisons or hospitals, like just finally releasing the impact of that. the trauma from those things, or the residue from that, you know. Okay, so then moving forward, and if I didn't say this already, Aries rising, your ruled planet is Mars. And so when Mars goes visible on March 20th, that will be a great time for you to launch big things, you know. And I'm not saying prior to March 20th, you can't launch anything big, you can't make power moves, you can't be a mover and shaker, you can't get stuff done. I'm not saying that. I'm a Scorpio sun. I'm also ruled by Mars. So I know it's impossible to just like chill until March, you know. But just plan behind the scenes, strategize, prepare, um, get all your ducks in a row. And the reason why is because Mars is invisible. And Mars is invisible. I'm trying to say two things at once. And because Mars is your ruling planet, it's there will be less resistance in the universe for your big launch or your next big thing when Mars becomes visible again on March 20th. All right. Now, the good news, this goes for everyone, there's no Mars retrograde in 2026. We had a long one in 2024 and 2025, and that was a drag. All right. So that's the most important thing to remember. And so Mars becoming visible again for Aries rising after March 20th. And you know, when Mars is in Aries, Aries rising people, which is going to be April 10th to May 18th, this is your strongest period of the year. It doesn't mean go burn yourself out, Aries, because I know we could do that. And I'm not an Aries sun, moon, or rising, but I have a north node there. But this is like you will feel more drive. You will feel your new beginnings like actually becoming visible. You will feel the confidence um more obviously, the momentum, the power moves, the physical vitality. Like this is the strongest period of your year, April 10th to May 18th. And then Mars in Taurus, this is May 19th to June 28th. So really work on your money, budgeting, working hard, watch your spending during that time. And again, Mars is your ruling planet, so that's why we're going through these. Mars in Gemini, June 29th to August 10th. Good time for travel, writing, speaking, marketing, communication, you know, any reaching out to your siblings, if you need to reconcile with any family members, cousins, aunts, this is a perfect time to do it. You know, taking action. Mars is not, it's not really like a kumbaya type of planet, but it is an action type of planet. So I'm not saying it's going to be guaranteed that if you reach out to your sibling that you'll resolve what you need to resolve. But it being in the third house, you might find that maybe something that needs to be said is said. Maybe some type of action that needs to be acted upon is done. You know, those types of things. All right, Mars moving into Cancer, August 11th through September 23rd. So you might have a possible home move if that's something that is a goal of yours for 2026. I'm not saying it could only happen during August 11th through the 23rd, Aries rising, but this would be one of the opportune times. It's an opportune window. Or emotional work or family dynamics or and also speaking of family dynamics, this could be a time where there's just friction in the home. And you know, the thing I like about astrology is we don't have to like manifest the friction in the home, but it's more of just about awareness. Because if you're aware of it, it's not about avoiding it or trying to prevent it, but when it happens, it reduces like the shock factor, right? When there's arguments in the home or friction in the family or things like that. And so when Mars is in Cancer, you know, sometimes those things come up. So you can you can be prepared for that mentally and emotionally, and that way you'll be able to navigate it. You know, when things happen in life, it's not about the thing always, it's not always about what happened. It's about how we respond to what happened, right? All right, Mars in Leo, September 28th through the 25th. Perfect time for romance, passion, entrepreneurship, you know, your sex life, romance, creativity. Um, you know, focus on your kids, or your kids might need something from you, or they might come visit you, or they might need time, or they might need your help or your support, things like that. Mars in Virgo is November 26th onward. And this is a great time for, this is your sixth house. So, you know, during the holidays of 2026, like really focus on health. This is gonna this connects to that Saturn being in your first house, you know, for all the whole year of 2026 and more, but really focusing on your physical body, your vitality, your self-awareness, your daily routines, and then, you know, improving and organizing and optimizing your life. So that was the Mars overview. Now, Venus is going to be retrograde in Scorpio from September 10th to January 7th, 2027. Now, Venus is in its detriment in Scorpio. I have Venus in Scorpio in my natal chart. It's a doozy. Um, but what's important for you to know is this is going to be a major reset in shared finances, because this is your eighth house. Like, eighth house is your investments, your passive income, any money that's coming to you that you don't like earn or like labor for. If you don't have to labor for it, but you still earn it, this is eighth house. Any crypto accounts, any inheritances, any shared finances, taxes, whether you owe taxes or whether the government owes you, divorce settlements. This is also like intimacy and power dynamics. And so with Venus in retrograde during this time, I would be very, I don't want to say do not do this, but just be very cautious in making any major financial decisions during this time. If you're going to make a financial decision, sit on it for like a week or 2 or 3 weeks. You know, like really sit with it, sleep with it. Like not in an obsessive way, but like just meditate with it. Like just let the energy land. Because if it's meant for you to do it, it'll still be there, you know, a couple weeks later. But with Venus in retrograde, um, in Scorpio, like I said, Venus is already in detriment in Scorpio, and a Venus retrograde is like a double detriment, even though that's not really a thing in astrology. But again, I have Venus retrograde in Scorpio, and we struggle with money the most. That's our like our life. That's our life path. And it's not our life path, but it's a life lesson. And I'm not saying you're going to struggle with money during this time, but if you just hold off on big financial decisions, any eighth house matters. Let the retrograde give you the reflection and the reset that you need in this area of life. Let the universe do what it needs to do, and then you can move on from there. And this is going to be similar to some things that could have been happening for you in 2018. Okay. All right, Aries rising. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it gives you kind of like an idea of what to expect for 2026. Again, this is very general, and hopefully this inspired you to hop in my 2026 A Year Ahead Deep Dive program, where it's so much more personalized. Yes, we'll talk about these general themes, but we'll actually look at your natal chart to see how your natal chart interacts with everything, which is where the power is. So overall, this is going to be a very big year for you. Like I said in the beginning, career changes, you know, reputation. Your reputation is going to change. It's just going to change in a big way. And if it doesn't change right away, again, this is like a 2 year that the Mars activation will kind of the residue will activate things for 2 years for that. And then also a Saturn Neptune in your sign in your first house. So just staying disciplined, and you might have, you know, a lot of spiritual realizations or activations and things like that happening. So I hope you enjoyed this special series. Namaste, everyone. Have a great day.